Hello, my name is Peter Evans and I'm the managing partner of Evans Disability. Today I wanted to talk about the work activity form that you've received, or the SSA-821-BK form. We've been getting a lot of calls about this form in particular, and I wanted to go ahead and address kind of how to fill it out, why you might be getting this, and then how to sort of tackle this form and make sure you're understanding the questions. So before we talk about specifically how to fill out this particular form, the SSA-821 form, which is we commonly refer to as the Work Activity Report, I do want to give some general background information and just regarding Social Security and some of their terms and why you might be receiving this. So the first thing I want to say, generally speaking, is that Social Security disability and the definition of disability is directly related to work activity. So can you work? And if the answer is yes, you can work and make over what's called substantial gainful activity, or SGA for short. So if you can work and make over SGA, you are not disabled. And so a lot of folks will sometimes work while they're alleging they were disabled. And so there's three concepts I want to cover before we start talking about this form. So concept number one, and I'm going to pull up my web browser here, is what is your alleged onset date, or AOD for short. And the definition of the AOD is this part here. The alleged onset date is always the date the claimant alleges he or she became unable to work because of his or her medical condition, whether or not that date appears to be appropriate according to Social Security. So again, the alleged onset date, which is what I'm going to be referring to when we talk about this form, is always the date the claimant alleges he or she became unable to work because of his or her medical condition, and that's AOD for short. Okay, so that's the first thing as I refer to. What is AOD? The second thing I want to refer to is substantial gainful activity. And so you are technically allowed to work while you're alleging disability, or while you alleged you were disabled. But there are certain rules, and sort of the general rule is that in order to be eligible for Social Security disability benefits, if you're not blind, which is basically anything that's mental or physical other than blindness, and when I mean blind, I mean 200 over 400. You are walking with a blind cane, even with glasses. You cannot see well enough to cross the street on your own. So most of the people, most of our clients fall into this category. And this is the year 2022, and the gross dollar amount, and this number 1,350 is a gross dollar amount that you might earn in earned wages. So generally speaking, if you're disabled, and it doesn't matter what your disability is as far as physical or mental, you could come to our firm and say, hey, look, I'm paralyzed from the chest down, or from the neck down, but I'm still working, and an employer is paying me $1,351 gross income per month. And if you're receiving and making that amount of money, unfortunately, it's too much money to be eligible for Social Security disability benefits. And so every year, if you go back in time, and let's say you're alleging you became disabled back in 2021, they look at the earnings and treat the earnings of $1,310 in 2021. So if $1,350 does not apply to 2021, it only applies to 2022. And in 2020, it's $1,260 gross income per month. And so here on Social Security's website, you can see they have a list that dates all the way back to 1975. And so it's just subtly increased over the years on what substantial gainful activity is, or the gross dollar amount. That's sort of their red line in the sand. Hey, look, if you're making more than $1,350 gross income per month, we're not going to consider you disabled. And that's generally speaking, and there's always exceptions to the rule. But let's say you're making less than $1,350 gross income per month. In that scenario, you would generally be okay. So those are the two concepts I want to cover. The third one is what's called an unsuccessful work attempt. So I just said you can't make more than $1,350. However, there is an exception. You can do that while you're applying for a period of disability if you qualify for what's considered an unsuccessful work attempt. Basically, it's 6 months of employment but no more than 6 months. But you've had to have a break, meaning you had a typical job, you worked, and then there was at least a 30-day window where you couldn't work anymore, and then you tried to go back to work, and then you were unsuccessful, and that unsuccessful work attempt lasted less than 6 months. So those are the three concepts I want to cover before we dive into this form. So this form, if you received it, it's likely because you worked during the time of your alleged onset date, or you have income being reported to Social Security during the time you were alleging you became disabled. And so today is April 7th, 2022. And if you were to apply today and allege that you were disabled 2 years ago, but you just stopped working yesterday, then you're going to get this form because they want to know 2 years ago you've been working sort of throughout this time frame. And so that's why you would get this form if you were working during the time you were alleging you were disabled. Okay? So generally speaking, and I hand wrote this out because I didn't want to use a real client's form due to we keep everything highly confidential in our firm. So I hand wrote this out, but a lot of times this information will come typed from Social Security. There will be a date and then a BIN number or BNC number, the name of your employer, the year, and then the earnings. Sometimes they're typed out. I've seen them handwritten in. I've also seen them left blank. And so that's when it can get a little bit more confusing. But the typical ones come typed out. So as you read this form, here they say, please read the enclosed pamphlet, Working While Disabled, How We Can Help. And then it talks about if you have any questions or need any help completing the form, to give Social Security a call. Do not call Social Security for help with these forms. They are not there to help you. Please refer to this video or please call our firm at 503-200-2718. We'd be more than happy to help you fill this form out and answer any questions. We're constantly training our staff, making sure that our staff is kept up to speed on being able to answer these questions. But generally speaking, so let's go ahead and look at it. Do not call Social Security. So let's go ahead and look at it. So you're going to see the name of the employer, the year, which is 2022, and this is all hypothetical, and the earnings that were reported so far for that year. So here, we're only in the month of April, and we have a little over $3,000 being reported, and so they want to know what's going on. And so it's two different employers. One is from Kroger, and one is from Law Office LLC. And Kroger is a popular grocery store brand company, and they own Fred Meyer. So we've been using sort of this theme of a cashier, and then a law office as a receptionist. And so here you can work at multiple jobs in the same year. So you had an employee here who worked for a little while for Kroger, and then a little while for the Law Office LLC. So it's pretty black and white. So one of the things you want to make sure here is to fill in your name, the date, and then have you had any employment income or wages since the date shown above in the identification section. Okay, so when they're referencing any dates, that's where they want to know, have you had any employment or work. And so here on question 2 or 1, if you did not work, other types of income may have been reported for you. Please complete the information below. We may ask for proof of this income when you are finished. Okay, so then back pay should not be counted against you if you received it later on. So let's say you actually stopped working in 2021 and then received a back pay check that you were owed a month or two into 2022. a lot of times that will be reported. Vacation pay that you're cashing out or that was donated to you might be reported as income, especially if vacation pay was donated to you from other coworkers or employees. That might be something that gets reported and is not distinguishable on your paycheck. Same with holiday pay, bonus or commissions, royalties, sick pay, disability pay, insurance payments, and workman's compensation. So here we did Kroger Inc. And then you just Google the address if you don't know your employer's name. We did $500 per month for vacation pay just for 2022. And then we talked about the law office. Then I went into the law office LLC. This was the second most current employer. Your supervisor's name, their telephone number, address, and then still working. So you'll get this form, especially if you're still working. And in this particular case, it's $15 per hour, $10 10 hours per week. So you want to be specific. It's giving you an average. Sometimes you work 12 hours, sometimes you work 8 hours, but just try to give that best average. And then obviously if you have your pay stubs and your gross wages printouts, that would be the best, and you can click that box here and then include it. Please mail a copy of that to our firm so we can have a copy and submit it for you. But if you don't, go ahead and put it in and then fill it out as best as you can, or reach out to your employer, and hopefully they have all your pay stubs saved as well. So here you have the date, they want the month and the year, and how much money you earned. So at this gross dollar amount, and when we talk about gross, that means before taxes, before anything is taken out. So if you make $10 an hour and you work 10 hours, that's $100. That's the gross amount. So here, gross amount was $600 for January, $600 for February, and then $650 for March. March is a little bit of a longer month in 2022, and now and today's date is April 7th, and so you're reporting that as income, earned income. And it's okay because it's not over that $1,350 threshold. So you want to continue on. And, do you have any more employers to talk about? Well, no, we don't. So, but if you do, go ahead and do the same thing. Fill it out just like we did above. And then down here, there was one day where I was sick, or in this hypothetical, the person was sick. So we said sick pay. The name of the company, Law Office LLC. It was $30 because on average, this employee is working two hours a day, very part-time job. So I just wrote $30 one time in March of 2022. Scroll down here. So for any jobs that you told us about in question 3, okay, have you worked under any special conditions listed below? And so here, and this is really important because especially if you go to show up in court and you testify like, hey, the only reason I was able to do the job that I'm doing is because I have a lot of help, or there's special conditions. So had you had extra help or extra supervision or a job coach? Employer's name. So I put yes, Law Office LLC. Basically the whole time of employment there. My coworkers would help with answering phones when my hands, and here I try to put locked up. But yes, that is me trying to squeeze that in there. And then work irregular or fewer hours than other workers. Well, I'm only working 2 hours a shift, very part-time, and I need an extra break. And so I have a great employer. He's allowing me to take 2 extra breaks per day. And so I describe that here. Given special equipment because of my condition. Special equipment could be a special keyboard, chair, any special equipment to help accommodate with your disabilities. Took more rest periods than others. Well, absolutely. Law Office LLC is the name of the employer. And then the date, and then I would need 1 break per hour for 10 minutes at a time. And then these are pretty self-explanatory. Given special transportation to and from work, if you have a medical transport, had fewer or even someone driving you, a family member or friend, had fewer or easier duties than other workers, pretty self-explanatory. If you're if you have the same job title as a coworker, but you have less duties, or things are a little bit easier because of your disabilities, that's important to note. Allowed to produce less work than other workers. That's really important because Social Security considers someone who produces at least 15% less than the typical person in that job. Then that person, generally speaking, cannot sustain a full-time job because an employer would let them go for not being productive. Hired through a special training or therapy program, that could be like a back-to-work vocational rehab program, given work that was suited to my conditions, and then given special help getting ready for work. So those are pretty self-explanatory. If those apply to you, please check the box and move on. For any job that you told us about in question 3, did you make any of the changes below since the date shown in the identification section? Stopped working, reduced my hours, reduced my earnings, changed to a lighter, easier type of work. Again, pretty self-explanatory. And then check the box. Was it a physical or mental condition or a special condition that allowed me to work were removed? So, you were given a 2-hour shift with special, allowed to take a 10-minute break. Then all of a sudden your employer said, hey, no, I can no longer let you take a 10-minute break every hour. And therefore you no longer could sustain employment. And then keep scrolling down. And then, so here I said, yes, I did get some. Please tell us what you paid below. Do you show any expenses that have or will be paid by an insurance company, other organizations, or other person? Here we had a computer keyboard for my bad hands. It was a $200 one-time cost. I bought it in January 22. And then a special chair for my back, $1,000 one-time cost, bought in January 22. So once you get into this, a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. Sign it, date it, move on. Privacy Act statement. And then additional employment information if you've had multiple employers while you were working. I think the biggest key is trying to understand why they sent this to you. And that's probably the number one question we get about this form. Why did I get this? Well, it's because you're alleging disability, or you had earnings while you were alleging, or during the time you're alleging you were disabled. And so the next question, or the next thing I wanted to point out, it says, please complete and return the completed form within 15 days. I just want to tell you folks right now, it's not a hard 15 days. It's more of a soft 15 days. Generally speaking, try to get it back to Social Security within 30 days. They can deny you for failure to complete this form and fill this out, and then you'd be deemed uncooperative, which of course is not a reason why you want to be denied. So go ahead, fill this out as soon as you can, as best as you can. Turn it into our firm. We scan all the mail that comes in, so we'll scan this and then we can turn it into Social Security on your behalf. And so again, just remember, if you're making more than $1,350 gross income per month, and you've done that for a period of more than 6 months, please call us right away and let us know. That way we can take a look at your case and analyze it to see if you would continue to potentially be eligible for Social Security disability benefits. I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call at 503-200-2718. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.